Hello and welcome back to FM21 and welcome back to a season with Schalke. Last episode we took over at Bundesliga strugglers Schalke with our German counterpart Hans Wienerlot, and we laid out our initial plans on how we could possibly change their fortunes by setting up some tactics and laying out some plans for the transfer window before a 2-1 defeat to Red Bull Salzburg in a pre-season friendly. It was a pretty disappointing performance and definitely showed us that we had some work to do, but now we're at the halfway point of the season and there have been quite a few changes which you might expect. So let's jump in and see how we've been getting on. So first things first, let's take a look at our pre-season activity. As I mentioned, our plan was to arrange a bunch of pre-season friendlies that I thought we'd have a good chance of winning in order to boost the morale of the players and help them get familiarity with our new tactics. So after that defeat to Salzburg, we played several other teams and got a bunch of good results. We definitely picked up some momentum and some familiarity that we were able to take into our first round cup match against Ulm, battering them 4-0. A really good performance, albeit against a semi-professional side. You can only beat what you've got out in front of you. I just want to show you Paciencia's second goal, which was our fourth, and a real beauty. Harrit with the ball on the left sends it back to Nastasic, who launches the ball forward. Paciencia catches it on his chest, turns and shoots on the half volley, smashing against the right hand post and in. What a fantastic goal. But before we jump into the league action, I just want to go through some of the changes that we made in that initial transfer window. First things first, we had a bit of an overhaul with the staff. In the last episode we got in our new assistant manager Dirk Mack, and we followed that appointment by bringing in a whole bunch of first team coaches, including Dennis Bergkamp, who's an excellent attacking coach, as well as revamping the goalkeeping and fitness coaches. With the excellent scouting team that we already had and a couple of new physio additions, we now have one of the best staff teams in the Bundesliga, which is excellent and is certainly going to help us in both the short term and the long term. Next up, we'll take a look at some of those summer transfers. Our first departure was Alessandro Schopf, who went off for 5 million to Mönchengladbach. In return, we bought a player off them, Michael Lang, the right back that we were looking at last episode, for 3.3 million. He's slotted straight into the first team as our first choice right back and right wing back, although we can see that Lang's stats are starting to drop here, perhaps due to the injury that he's just had. He has been a pretty decent signing for us and certainly helped steady the ship. He only signed a 2-year contract, so whoever takes over from us at the end of the season can always reassess his position. But I'm very pleased with this signing. He made the impact that I needed him to and certainly helped fill that hole that we had at right back. Another big signing for us was Julian Baumgartlinger from Bayern Leverkusen. He cost us 2.4 million, but I do think he is an excellent player. Brilliant mental and physical stats if the technicals are not fully there, although for his job as a ball-winning midfielder, he's certainly got the tackling and marking stats. Again, I think he's been another good signing for us, a very good character for us to have around the dressing room considering how toxic it was when we took over, and his signing gave us an option to rotate with Stambouli, who can also play in central defence if we need him to. A slightly older, experienced head, which is just the type of player that we needed to sort out the mess that we were in. Our final permanent signing of the summer transfer window was Rolando Aarons from Newcastle for 1.5 million. He was basically brought in as a backup left-wing option for Harrit, although he can also play on the right. He's someone that has good stats for a winger, although he's not much good at anything else, unfortunately. He hasn't really played all that much, which is mainly due to the arrival of a loan signing later in the window, which I'll tell you about in just a second. But Aarons is at least on a low wage. He's happy to be an emergency backup, and his value has actually risen a little bit over what we paid for him. So again, he was only signed on a 2-year deal, which gives Schalke the flexibility to decide what they want to do with him at the end of the season. And the last new player of the summer transfer window is Emel Smith-Rowe, who arrived on loan from Arsenal. Obviously well known as an excellent young prospect, but also very versatile. While he's most comfortable on the left wing or in attacking midfield, he can play all across the midfield and even up front if he needs to. So far this season, he's been very impressive with 3 goals and 5 assists in just 13 appearances. Just the kind of midfield creative spark that we really needed in this team. So, as I mentioned at the start of the video, we are currently exactly halfway through the Bundesliga season, and as you can see from the results here, it's been pretty good really. We've definitely got more wins than losses and draws. In the league so far this year, we've had 9 wins, 6 losses, and just the 3 draws. Not bad at all really, considering we were predicted to finish 15th. Due to the good positive pre-season that we had, the team dynamics were looking vastly different. They were terrible before, but just before the first game of the season, we had good cohesion, good support for the manager, and a very good atmosphere in the dressing room. I do think that sorting out the atmosphere was extremely important for the upcoming season. It's no secret how difficult it is to get out of a slump if your players aren't motivated for it, so getting them in the right frame of mind just before the season began was absolutely crucial, and I'm delighted that we were able to do so. And looking at the dynamics now, it's even better than before. An excellent club atmosphere with the team delighted at how the season has gone so far. As you can can see from the table, we're currently in 5th place, definitely overachieving, 3 points clear of Frankfurt in 5th, and only 3 points off Augsburg in 4th as well. However, the middle of the table is an absolute scrum, with just 2 points separating 8th and 14th place. Hopefully we can carry on in the same run of form that we've taken from the first half of the season. So with the tricky start of the season at Bayern Munich, I decided to play quite a defensive formation. As you would expect, it didn't pan out that well, and we were lucky to only lose 1-0. 23 shots they had to our 2, so unsurprising that we lost there, but I never expected to win, so I don't mind too much. The next game against Werder Bremen, we reverted to our 4-3-3, which had worked out really well for us in pre-season, and we were absolutely robbed 2-0 to Werder Bremen from their 3 shots to our 14, an absolute joke, but never mind, we were unlucky there really. Before another tough game away at Leipzig, a 1-1 draw was a good result there, and finally, against Union Berlin, we got our first win of the season. Our performances were showing positive signs, and it certainly came into fruition here. We really started to hit our stride then. We were in excellent form, 4 wins on the trot, 15 goals scored, and only 3 conceded. Not bad at all. The games against Dortmund and Stuttgart were real highlights. A fantastic 4-1 win at Dortmund before a 5-1 win at home to Stuttgart. And extremely satisfying games in which Harit scored the opening 2 goals before Ibisevic was able to seal his hat-trick in the very last kick of the game to earn that 10 out of 10 rating. Absolutely magnificent performance. Yet suddenly we found ourselves in a real slump without a win in 5 games. We were still scoring goals, just leaking too many. It just wasn't going right for us at all. We'd mainly been playing our 4-3-3 throughout all of this, but after the defeat to Freiburg I decided that we needed a change. I switched things up to a 4-2-3-1, one of my favoured formations, albeit slightly boring, which did allow us to deploy Smith-Rowe in his favoured attacking midfield role, where he really made a difference, with a couple of assists setting up Paciencia's 2 goals. And suddenly we were on fire yet again, a brilliant result in the second round of the Cup at Dresden, before slightly nervy wins at Hertha Berlin and Hoffenheim, a draw at Frankfurt, and rounding off the first half of the season with a 3-1 win at home to Cologne. We're currently spending most of our time playing the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-3-1 formation, which seems to work really well with the players that we've got here. But really the best thing for this club is that we've been able to create an atmosphere that is so much more positive than it was. It really was in a terrible state before. Now the fans have a team to be proud of, the players are putting in a real shift, they're extremely happy here, and we've seen some huge increases in the squad values as well, which were ridiculously low at the start of the season. They really are showing a much better reflection on these players' ability now. As always with saves like this, it's not all positives. We do have some problems in the squad still. For me, the biggest problem at the moment is actually at left back, which did surprise me because it did look like we have 2 really good options there. Both Mendel and Okzikpal look like really good players on paper, but neither of them have been performing very well at all. Mendel would probably be my first choice, but has been extremely disappointing, repeatedly picking up 6.6 or lower ratings. It's been a real weak point in this team so far this season, so it was something that I was determined to try and address in this January transfer window. We were able to secure yet another loan signing. It's Joe Bryan in from Fulham. He's not the best left back in the world, but I don't really need him to be. We have some good left back options already. We just need one of them to start performing. We've now got 3 options that we can work between, lots of competition for places there, and hopefully at least one of them will start to perform in the way that we know they can. It's not really an area that we should have been having problems, but when you notice repeatedly bad performances from decent players, it really is best to do something about it, which is what I've done here with the loan signing of Bryan. On paper, the squad now looks really crowded with 3 left backs, but I certainly think it was the right decision here. So far this window we have made one other signing. It's Victor Clayson. We signed him for 2.8 million from Krasnodar in Turkey. With us starting to play the 4-2-3-1 quite often, I thought it was important that we had another body in that attacking midfield to give us an option. While Clayson is most comfortable on the left wing, he can play really well across the midfield, just like Smith-Rowe, but this signing does allow us to utilise Harit and Smith-Rowe either in attacking midfield or even on the right wing if we wanted to. He's a player that still has quite a lot to offer over the next few years, and he's certainly going to be a good experienced pro in the dressing room that we can use to mentor some of our promising youngsters. 2.8 million and 30 grand a week is a really good deal for a player like this, I think. So in the first episode I did mention that we try to offload some of these players on expensive wages. We weren't able to do it in the summer, but we did manage to sell both Bentaleb and Uth in this January transfer window, with Bentaleb earning a 3.8 million move to Al Ahly in Saudi Arabia. 3.8 million isn't really a lot of money for someone of Bentaleb's ability, but it's worth remembering that he was on 88 grand a week. There's not many clubs in the world that are able to meet wage demands like that. Personally, I'm just happy to get rid. He wasn't a good influence in the dressing room. He was just an expensive bench bench player, and his departure really has freed up a lot of money in this squad, as has the departure of Mark Uth. Don't get me wrong, Uth is not a bad player at all, but he had ended up becoming our third choice striker, with both Paciencia and Ibisevic performing very well in the early part of the season. So again, like Bentaleb, he was just a very expensive bench player. I believe he was on about 70 grand a week, which just like Bentaleb gives us loads more money to play around with, and their departures have helped put the club in a much better financial position. An overall balance now of 48 million is nothing to sniff at all, and it looks like we should really be making some decent money in this transfer window. As we still have a couple of transfers to discuss that aren't finalised yet, we have made some pre-contract agreements for next season. Obviously we're not going to be playing this second season, but the plan is always to leave the club in a better position than when we found it, so that they can carry on building in their future. Mikhail Vesca, who's currently playing at Bilbao, will be joining us in July. Looks a really decent player, this. Someone that I was willing to take the risk on, even though we hadn't fully scouted them yet. There was quite a lot of competition for his signature, and I'm delighted that we were able to win out. Looks like a really good midfield option, and potentially a replacement for Mascarell, who hasn't been at his best this season so far. If we did manage to sell Mascarell this window, we do actually have the option to buy Vesca for just 1.1 million, which wouldn't be a bad deal at all. We've still got a week or so to the end of the window, so he may well come in. We'll just have to wait and see. And our other pre-contract signing is Demarai Gray from Leicester. At 24 years of age, he still has some promise really. He's not hit the heights that he was predicted to at Leicester, but still a player that I think can do a lot of good at a club like Schalke. A good option again on both the left and the right wings. Should be a really good addition for this club. If we did want to buy him now, we can do so for 4.3 million, which seems a bit steep, but we may well be doing that because our first choice right winger Benito Rahman is currently a wanted man. Crystal Palace came in with a decent bid for him that I was able to negotiate up for 18 million, which I saw as too good to refuse at this moment in time. It is a shame because he had been playing pretty well. He was our top assister with 6 so far this season, along with his 4 goals. But 18 million can really help this squad out. It's the kind of money that would allow us to invest in this squad a little bit more. Thinking long term, we could probably do with signing a new goalkeeper at some point. Farman is a decent option, but there's certainly better out there. And if we do end up qualifying for Europe next season, we could really do with adding as much quality as possible. So I'll be sad to see Rahman go after his good performances this season, but I'm sure the additions of Demarai Gray and Victor Clayson will be more than adequate to replace him. I've already been planning on where we can spend the Rahman money to improve the squad, and the lack of options up front definitely need addressing, particularly as Ibisevic has decided to move on at the end of his contract. He'll be joining CSKA Moscow in July, so I wasted no time in making a £3 million bid for our top goal scorer Paciencia, who's currently on loan from Frankfurt. He's been excellent so far this season, a really valuable player. I do think we could do with another quality striker if possible. I'm looking at a couple of options at the moment, but I'm not certain that I'll manage to get anyone else in before the end of the transfer window. We'll just have to see how it goes. And just before we jump into action for this episode's game against Bayern Munich, and that last green paragraph there is something that every manager wants to see. Potential to be a real golden generation for the club. I can't wait until March until we can take a closer look at them. So here's our lineup for what will undoubtedly be an extremely tough game against Bayern Munich. Farman in goal as usual, Ludwig in at right back for the injured Lang, although he has been putting in some really good performances, which is always good to see. Nastasic misses out due to injury, although Kabak and Sane have become our preferred pairing in recent games. Loney Joe Bryan in at left back for the underperforming Mendel and the injured Okzikpa. In defensive midfield we have Baumgartlinger in his favoured ball-winning midfielder role. In front of him we have Mascarell and Serdar. In recent games we have been playing Smith-Rowe in for Mascarell, but against Bayern Munich I thought we could use a more defence-minded option. On the wings we have Harit and Rahman on what could be his last appearance as a Schalke player, and Paciencia up top in what could be his last appearance as a loanee for Schalke. New signing Clayson earns a spot on the bench, along with Rabbi Matondo, who has impressed in recent games. Overall, even with a few injuries, I think this team is in a much stronger position than it was at the start of the season. Most of the signings that we've made have made a real positive impact, which is all you can ask for really. So let's dive in and see how we can do against the league leaders, shall we? Unsurprisingly, an extremely strong Bayern side. All of those players are familiar in some way or another. Lewandowski up front is going to be very tough to deal with, along with Leroy Sané, and even their bench players could walk into any Bundesliga team. As we know, they are massively strong compared to the rest of the division. So here we are. 5th v 1st is always a decent fixture, isn't it? And it's Lewandowski with the kickoff. Back to Hernandez. Back to Serdar. There we go. Slow it down a little bit. Bad pass, and it's intercepted unfortunately. Lewandowski locks it back to Müller. Goretzka on the ball now. Back to Tolisso. Müller again. We know that Bayern can really pass very nicely. And Gnabry's through here for a shot, but straight at Farman. Safe hands, Farman. Leroy Sané on the corner for Bayern. He's gone to the back post, and Goretzka is there. Oh, and it's a really clumsy own goal from Baumgartlinger. Unlucky to be honest. Sané with the cross in, Goretzka heads it against the bar, and Baumgartlinger can't react fast enough to prevent an own goal. Not the best start, 3 minutes in, is it? Back to Sané. Over to Rahman on the right wing. Serdar now. Ludwig in some space. Rahman making the run inside. It's an early cross. Harrit's there. Oh, and he's beat Neuer and scored to equalise for Schalke. Brilliant stuff. What a cross by Ludwig that was. And a cracking finish from Harrit as well. Serdar spots Ludwig there. Ludwig cuts back inside, puts the cross in on his weak left foot. Harrit with a brilliant run. Neuer comes out and misses the ball. And Harrit's there to tuck it home in an empty net. 1-1. Time to regroup. Harrit into Paciencia. Back to Mascarell, but it's a clumsy pass from Paciencia. And now Bayern can counter. They've got lots of space and loads of pace in this team. Leroy Sané breaking down the right. Great pass to Lewandowski inside. But thankfully Farman's able to smother the particularly weak shot. Wow, not much happening this fast. All the action seemed to be in the first 10 minutes, and now we've made it pretty much all the way to half-time with very little happening. Pleased to see that our expected goals is slightly higher than Bayern's, although we haven't been able to make that pay yet. I think we have every right to be pleased with that considering the quality of the opposition, and I'm pleased that we've got more possession and passes completed than them as well. Promising stuff. This is going pretty well. Paciencia with the kick-off, straight back to Baumgartlinger. Again, this is obviously a very tight affair. We're now at the 60-minute mark and not much has happened yet again. Come on lads, create some space. Sané's got time, but they're still playing it around at the back. Long ball forward, which is what Bayern were waiting for, but thankfully Serdar is able to make the interception. Rahman's through now. Come on Rahman. Oh, he just takes the shot against Neuer, but it's blocked by the defender, and Bayern are able to take the ball away now. Now it's time for a sub. Serdar's looking a little bit tired, and he is an important player for us. So on comes Stambouli, and we're going to move Baumgartlinger into that box-to-box midfielder role, which he likes to play in as well. I'm going to leave it at that for the moment. Normally I would make some subs just for the hell of it, but we're playing Bayern Munich. They can score at any time, we know that, so we'll play it safe. 10 minutes to go, and Bayern are on the attack, but we've emerged with the ball. Here's Rahman. Rahman with a crossfield ball, but intercepted by Davis. We don't need to be taking risks like that. Here comes Costa. Costa up against Brian. He gets the cross in. Lewandowski's there, wins the header, but thankfully well over the bar. Just keep it simple, lads. Keep it simple and hold out for this draw. I'd be quite happy with that. Brian with the throw-in. Over to Mascarell. Back to Brian up the line. He's made a good run. Taking his man on. I like to see this. Positive. Back to Paciencia. Mascarell. Baumgartlinger with space in the middle. Stambouli. Oh, that was a bad pass. And Coman's in now. Oh my god, I can't believe it. Coman's 1-on-1 with Farman. Oh, and what a cracking save, Farman. Brilliant stuff. What an unbelievable save after some really rubbish play. Careless pass from Baumgartlinger, and Stambouli was awfully slow trying to get to it. Brian's looking a bit tired, so we've put on Mendel just for the last few minutes to see the game out. Hopefully his fresh legs will make an impact on that left-hand side. And with Rahman looking a little bit tired in what is probably his last game for the club, we're going to give him an ovation as he comes off for Rabbi Matondo. We'll see out the rest of this game. Not long until full time now. It looks like Farman's wasting it a little bit. I don't mind that at all. I would easily take a draw against Bayern Munich. And it's full time. Cracking result. 1-0 against Bayern is a cracking result, all things considered. Shame about the own goal, but these things do happen. It wasn't really his fault. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Couldn't react quick enough. Really nice goal from Harrit after some excellent work by Ludwig on the right. There were some scary moments in there, but a good all-round team effort, all things considered. Paciencia not really able to bring himself into the game, but considering the quality of the opposition, I'll give him this one. Stats-wise, it's looking pretty even, although slightly in our favour, with a higher passes completed rate and a higher possession as well, along with the higher expected goals. We've essentially outplayed Bayern Munich, which would have been unimaginable at the start of the season. This squad's come a really long way, and they certainly deserve this draw today. So that draw is enough to just about keep us in 5th at the moment. We do have Frankfurt breathing down our necks. But yeah, happy with that, and really happy with how this save's going as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens over the next week or so, the last week of the transfer window. Obviously it looks like we'll see the departure of Rahman, but 18 million is a good price for him, I think. It seems very likely likely that we'll bring forward Demarai Gray's move to now rather than at the end of the season to use as his replacement, and we may well bring in Vesca now as well, as it's only going to cost $1 million. But I think it's safe to say that we've managed to turn things around at Schalke so far. Certainly a much better place than it was when we arrived. Team are getting results, we've got some good players in there now, we've been able to get most of the big earners off our wage bill as well. Yeah, I think in general that we've made the right approach for what is really a pretty tricky situation. But there we go, please join me in the next episode for our end of season summary to see how well this Schalke team has done. If you've enjoyed this episode and you're enjoying a season with so far, please do let me know in the comments below, like the video, subscribe, all that stuff. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!